opens and it's two guys, random guys on the elevator. You guys can always pull this up. They used to have these FUK, two guys, they see me, they say LBJ, fucking God. Oh, no, listen, this is, man, we love t-shirts,
okay.
Black t-shirts, red letters. And I see the, we're just here for the, oh my, thank you so much, man. This is spectacle, man. We're just here for the spectacle. Like, seriously, we love you, man.
A shocking claim has started making waves. Larry Bird allegedly called LeBron James a fraud, and the fact that such a huge statement has received little mainstream attention is enough to make fans stop and question what is really going on. This is not just a random online personality making noise for attention. The claim involves Larry Bird, a three-time NBA champion and two-time Finals MVP whose legacy was built on skill, toughness, intelligence, and fierce competition. If Bird truly used words like fraud or protected when discussing LeBron, it would instantly become one of the biggest talking points in basketball. You would not simply ignore a statement like that. You would want to know exactly what was said, where it was said, and what evidence supports it. With LeBron's legacy constantly under debate, the rumor has created even more questions and speculation. However, until there is reliable proof of Bird actually making these remarks, the story should be treated as an unverified claim rather than a confirmed fact. At end 2026, with LeBron James' legacy still creating endless debate, these alleged words from Larry Bird would have caused a major reaction if they were confirmed. The story feels even more intriguing because the claims supposedly did not come from a polished press conference or carefully controlled television interview. Instead, whispers began circulating quietly through basketball circles in early 2026, away from the usual media debates and camera-ready discussions. According to the rumors, Bird had made strong and direct comments rather than vague jokes or casual remarks, leading people to wonder whether the statements made powerful figures around the league uncomfortable. Still, without clear and reliable evidence showing exactly what Bird said and where he said it, these claims remain unverified. But if the full story ever emerges, it could add another explosive chapter to the ongoing debate surrounding LeBron's legacy.
You know, in the NBA,
right,
that they're going to put 0.4 of a second up there, which scared the hell out of me. It should have been 2.2 seconds, knowing that he's going to Michael, he's going to get the ball, and he's going to get a clean look. He got the ball, he pump faked, took one dribble, and almost made it. He banked it in, and it came out. And really, it took 3 seconds to get the shot off, but you knew they're going to have time to have an opportunity to score. So I was in amazement because they should never have been 0.4 of a second. It should have been 2.
The alleged quote makes the story even more controversial because it does not question LeBron James' talent or deny his biggest accomplishments. Instead, it supposedly challenges the environment around his success, claiming that media coverage, officiating, and league decisions have often worked in his favor. If Larry Bird truly said these words, he would be questioning whether LeBron's legacy was shaped only by greatness or also by a system that helped protect his image. However, without reliable proof that Bird actually made the statement, it remains an unverified claim and should not be treated as fact. The claim suggests that LeBron's success was not simply natural but may have been shaped by the environment around him, which is why the alleged comments carry extra weight coming from a player like Larry Bird, who competed in a far more physical era. But what made fans even more curious was the lack of major coverage. If such a statement was real, people expected non-stop debate from major sports shows and outlets. Instead, there appeared to be very little discussion, creating even more questions. However, without reliable proof of Bird making the original comments, both the quote and any claims of intentional media silence should be treated as speculation rather than fact.
Friendship, how it evolved, the teams. Do you now, in your heart, believe you're the better player?
Actually, I've always said that I go by success, and he's won more championships, so I give him the nod.
Oh, yeah. Being very gentlemanly. Magic?
Before taking this story at face value, it's important to understand why the alleged comments have attracted so much attention. Larry Bird has always been known as someone with a strong personality, a fierce competitive mindset, and decades of experience at the highest levels of basketball, from battling Magic Johnson and watching Michael Jordan rise to spending years evaluating players and making major decisions as an executive. That history is exactly why a word like fraud, if Bird truly used it, would carry serious weight. The claim would not necessarily mean LeBron lacks talent or accomplishments, but rather question the larger image, media narrative, and circumstances surrounding his success. Even more controversial is the alleged word protection, because that would shift the discussion beyond LeBron himself and raise questions about whether the league, media, or other systems treat certain superstars differently. However, without reliable evidence confirming that Bird actually made these statements, the quote remains unverified, and the claim should be treated as speculation rather than established fact. The idea of protection goes far beyond one player and raises questions about how different parts of the basketball world might treat a superstar. Critics could point to officiating, suggesting that certain foul calls in key moments appear inconsistent, or to media coverage, where controversial situations may receive very different treatment depending on the player involved. Some fans have argued for years that they have noticed moments where the whistle seemed uneven or where the public narrative changed quickly after a game. What viewers believe they saw live could later be presented in a completely different way during post-game discussions. Still, individual examples and fan reactions do not prove that a player is being intentionally protected, so these claims remain part of an ongoing debate rather than established fact. This is where the debate becomes more serious, because an alleged claim carries different weight when it is connected to someone with Larry Bird's experience. A random fan can accuse the league of favoring LeBron James, but without evidence, it remains an opinion that may quickly disappear online. If Bird had genuinely made the same accusation, fans would naturally pay closer attention because of his decades as a player, executive, and figure around the NBA. However, even his experience would not turn an allegation into proof without supporting evidence. The discussion also becomes more complicated when considering the business side of basketball, including television ratings, sponsorships, media attention, and the enormous financial value attached to superstar players. That creates an important question: how much can business interests influence the way stars and major NBA stories are presented to the public? LeBron James is more than a superstar player. He is a major business figure whose games, playoff appearances, endorsements, media projects, and global popularity generate enormous attention around the NBA. That reality naturally leads critics to question whether a league built around major financial interests has extra incentives to protect the image of its biggest stars. However, financial value alone does not prove that LeBron receives special treatment, and the alleged Larry Bird comments remain unverified. The lack of widespread coverage could have many explanations rather than proving an intentional effort to suppress the story. Still, the discussion becomes even more interesting when looking at the carefully managed nature of modern sports public relations, where messaging, timing, interviews, and responses are often closely controlled to protect a superstar's public image and brand. After major criticism or controversy, fans often expect some kind of response: a social media post, a public statement, or comments from someone close to the player. That is why the alleged silence surrounding Larry Bird's supposed remarks has become part of the discussion. However, silence does not automatically prove a coordinated decision or confirm that the claims were true. One possibility is that there was simply nothing to respond to if the quote was never verified. Another is that responding to a controversial allegation could give it more attention and encourage people to revisit old games, officiating decisions, and media narratives. Still, without reliable evidence confirming Bird actually made the comments, it would be speculation to suggest that LeBron, the NBA, or anyone else intentionally chose silence to avoid a larger conversation. That possibility makes the situation even more controversial, but it is still important not to confuse silence with proof. Some people may argue that responding to an accusation gives it more attention, while others may believe silence is a deliberate reputation management strategy. If someone publicly called you a fraud, you might expect an immediate response, but public figures and organizations often choose not to address every unverified claim. Once the alleged Bird comments began spreading online, the debate quickly divided fans. LeBron's longtime supporters defended his career, statistics, and accomplishments, while critics used the story to question the narrative surrounding his legacy. For LeBron's supporters, the alleged comments were seen as another example of older NBA figures refusing to fully recognize his place among the game's greatest players. They challenged Bird's supposed perspective by comparing eras, examining his record as an executive, and questioning the claim from every possible angle. But the debate became more interesting because the skepticism around LeBron's legacy did not come only from his usual critics. Some casual fans also began discussing the same questions, not necessarily out of hatred, but because they see legitimate reasons to debate his career, championships, team changes, and place in basketball history. In 2026, questioning LeBron's legacy does not automatically mean someone is a hater, just as defending him does not automatically mean someone ignores criticism. Many fans base their opinions on what they believe they have seen throughout LeBron's career, and sometimes their personal view of a game does not match the larger media narrative. That gap is where debates become louder. The alleged Bird comments gave critics a new way to describe concerns they may have already had, while supporters strongly rejected that interpretation. However, because the quote itself remains unverified, it should not be treated as an established statement from Bird. What is clear is that LeBron's name continues to create one of the biggest divides in basketball, bringing out intense loyalty from supporters and equally strong skepticism from critics whenever his legacy is discussed. There's been little middle ground in the LeBron James debate for years, with supporters and critics often holding completely opposite views. The alleged Larry Bird comments only added more fuel to an already intense discussion. However, because there is no reliable confirmation that Bird actually made the remarks, claims that he refused to explain, retract, or defend them should also be treated as unverified.